What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Dewan. Today, I have a special guest. My cousin Marlene Shante is here to share with you her 9 tips for career success in 2021. I hope you find this video helpful and you're able to apply the tips directly to your life. Please show her some support. And with no further ado, here's my cousin Marlene.
Hi, my name is Marlene Shante, and I am the creator of Flourish Queen LLC. Now, today I want to talk to you about my 9 career tips for 2021. So, the first tip that I have for you is to get a sponsor. Now, I know that most of you have a mentor, and that is great. Because mentors are going to coach you and they're going to help guide you and direct you during your career path. But a sponsor is someone who is going to vouch for you and they're going to open up doors for you. So just to give you an example, way back when I was trying to land my first management position, I was really having a hard time overcoming that requirement that you typically have to have previous management experience. So one day I was going through my company's training classes and I came across a leadership and management boot camp. I submitted to sign up for the class, but unfortunately they declined me because they had a requirement that you had to currently be in a management position to take the course. I went to my sponsor at the time, who just so happened to be my direct manager. I told her what was going on. She immediately picked up the phone and started making phone calls. So she vouched for me and she opened up the door for me because they made an exception and allowed me to take that course. It was a 12-month course. It was very intense. But once I graduated from that and got that certificate, probably about a month or 2 later, I applied for my next management position and I was able to land it. So yes, you need a mentor, but my tip for you is to also get a sponsor. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, never burn bridges. So I'm in the banking industry and I believe that most of you are in the IT industry, but honestly, it doesn't matter what industry you work in. Over the course of your career, you're going to change titles, you're going to change positions, you're even going to change companies. And so at some point in your career, you're going to run back into some of the same people that you may have worked with or worked for in the past. And so if you haven't burned any bridges, that you're going to better position yourself, because you never know who you're going to run into that you're going to need to vouch for you or maybe even hire you in that next step in your career. So that's my tip number 2, never burn bridges. So number 3 is avoid negativity. Now, this is super important, of course, on your day-to-day job. But also I would say this is important in interviews too, because when I was a manager, I definitely had to interview a lot for my team. And one of the red flags that always stuck out for me was when someone was being completely negative, whether it was about their current colleagues, their current department, their current manager. You know, it usually said one of 2 things to me. Usually I felt like either 1, they really didn't want the job that they were applying for with me. They just hated their current position and wanted to get out. Or it said 2, that they are a negative person and they probably were not going to mesh well with my current team. So that's tip number 3, avoid negativity. But you know what? I do want to add this though. I don't want you to feel like you can never say anything negative, because we all get those emails or something comes up and we're like, we might say something. And I mean, that's just, part of life and you being honest. What I need you to do is really read the room and make sure you are not the negative Nancy of the group. Because if you're constantly negative, the chances are nobody really wants to be around you and nobody wants to work with you. So again, that's tip number 3, avoid negativity. Okay, so tip number 4 is always continue learning. So honestly, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. In just about every field, things change. So it's very important that you are staying up to date with the latest trends and changes in your industry, whether you need to subscribe to some publication, take some continual education courses or certifications, join groups or clubs that pertain to your industry. Whatever you need to do, you definitely want to make sure that you're always learning and you're always growing, because you don't want to get left behind. So that is tip number 4, always continue learning. Now, my next tip is to ask for help. Now, just to give you an example, basically when I started my career in banking, I started working in private banking. And so I started receiving a number of documents, legal documents, financial documents. There was so much going on, and I honestly didn't know what everything was for, what we needed it for, what it was significant for, and how it worked, within my department and what we were trying to do. And so I started asking questions. I would ask my colleagues and I would ask my manager questions. And so honestly, I think this is what helped me stand out with my manager and why she became my sponsor, because she saw that I wasn't just there for a paycheck. I wasn't just trying to do the bare minimum that they had on my specific job requirements, but I actually wanted to learn. I actually wanted to grow. So there's nothing wrong with asking questions. You're not gonna look stupid, and you obviously shouldn't feel stupid. Go ahead and ask those questions, okay? So that's tip number 5. Tip number 6 is to let everyone know what you do. Now, I say that because I want you to get in the habit of telling people what you do. Get in the habit of talking about what you're working on, because you never know who that person might be able to connect you to. So just an example for that. I was speaking to someone that I had met in a church group, and I mentioned to her, I wrote this book and I had an editor, but that kind of fell through, and I just really need an editor. But I was just talking to her casually, and she said, hey, I actually know a professional editor. I can get you her information. And when I tell you, she connected me with this person, and it was one of the best experiences. And I plan to use her for my next book and the book after that. And so I'm just really grateful because I talked about myself and shared what I was working on. And in that, I was able to get connected with someone else that could help me further along in my journey. So yeah, that's tip number 6. Let people know what you do. Okay, so tip number 7 is to check for job postings every week. Now, you might be in a dream job right now, or you feel like it's your dream job, or you really like where you are, or you feel like, oh, I'm not ready to move right now, I'm good. It's always good to see what's out there. It's always good to be on the lookout, because sometimes, every once in a while, a new job will be posted. Something new will be created that maybe you didn't even know existed, or maybe you didn't know until you saw it that it sparked something within you. So you always want to be on the lookout for new opportunities. So again, I'm going to share an example since I've been doing that. When I did land that management position, it wasn't just, a department that needed a new manager. I basically moved into a new position that was just created. It was a brand new department. So we built that department from the ground up. So not only did I get to satisfy my desire to finally move into a management position, but I got to do something that I love, which is create. I love creating things from scratch. So I moved into a position where I started a department from the ground up. I had a team, so I'm not trying to take all the credit, but we built that brick by brick. And it was probably one of the most satisfying positions that I've held in my career. So again, tip number 7, always stay up to date with checking those job postings and seeing what else is out there. So number 8 is speak up. So don't be afraid to use your voice. If you see something that maybe isn't right, Like, don't just bring it up just to bring it up. Like, bring it up with your solution. You know, I had worked for a company and it was a bank for over 10 years. I moved to another company, another bank. And at that point, I had extensive training and project management skills. And so when I moved to the new bank, I immediately saw some flaws in some of their training and some of the things that they were doing. And I secretly was kind of keeping notes on my own. But I ended up getting invited to a roundtable discussion with one of the big, executives of the corporation. And it was a specific topic that we were discussing. But at the end of the roundtable, she let us know, hey, if there's anything else you guys, think about, or maybe we need to discuss, reach out to me. And I was like, what? So I already had this list. So that was kind of like my green light. I basically created a PowerPoint presentation and sent it to her. And what I did, I included the things that I had observed that basically I felt like we could do better, and I gave my solutions. And so what happened was the head of my department, he set up a meeting and he invited me and a couple other managers, and I presented my PowerPoint, went over everything. And at the end, I was selected to head up a new improvement initiative. So because I spoke up and said, hey, we're doing this way, but I feel like we maybe should do it this way, I ended up getting a new responsibility. And so in getting recognized and kind of, getting my name throughout the company at this new company I had started with. So don't be afraid to speak up. That's tip number 8. And so the last and final tip that I have for you is revisit your resume at least once a month. And I say that because, I'll say for my resume, I don't just list, what I do or have done in a position. For every single position I've held, I do list my accomplishments while I was in that role. And so as you're working and as you're doing things and you're accomplishing things and meeting goals, you want to revisit your resume so that you don't forget to put those things down, or that you don't forget the specifics of those accomplishments so you can accurately depict it. And another reason to do this at least once a month is because, again, as you're out talking yourself up or letting people know what you do, you are going to run into people that are going to be like, hey, shoot me your resume. And so you also want to just have that ready and not have to go back and say, oh, do I need to update? What's, blah, blah, blah. So that's tip number 9, revisit your resume at least once per month. Well, I really do hope that you found value in my 9 career tips for 2021. If you would like to hear more from me, you can go to my website at www.flourishqueen.com, where I specialize in personal, professional, spiritual, and financial development. You can also follow me on Instagram at Flourish Queen LLC. Right now, we actually have a 30-30 Flourish challenge going on, where we are spending 30 intentional minutes with God for the next 30 consecutive days. So you're welcome to join us in our challenge. And I just wanted to let Dewan know that I appreciate you and thank you for allowing me to share with your Lab Everyday family.